be here today. We're going to be singing all of our own music today, so I hope you enjoy it. This one's called Grounded Together.
Just say a word and I'll come running back. You don't seem yourself. Is there something on your mind? We walk on diamond rocks, the waves crashing in time. Is there something on your mind? It'll pass in time. Is there something I can say? Make it all go away. You can park her up and answer the call.
About 30 years ago, I had a brief encounter with a beautiful young French woman about whom I wrote a long, long song. But I found out that we were in the Chinese restaurant in Galway City on the main street, and I found out that our favourite flowers were carnations. So they became my favourite flowers straight away. Now, she disappeared, but some years afterwards, another young woman, not French this time, but Irish, she appeared, and I thought, I'll give her carnations for Valentine's Day. A very, very, very bad idea, as you'll hear. Oh, I fell in love last Christmas. In fact, 3 days after Christmas. Yes, I fell in love last Christmas over brandy and port wine, and I kissed my love soon after, amid lots of crack and laughter. We were swinging out of the rafters to the strains of Auld Lang Syne. Oh, I loved her very dearly, so truly and sincerely. There was no one in this wide world I would sooner have called mine. So I threw out all me savings and I splashed out on carnations, and I made my presentation on the feast of Valentine. Well, she looked at me carnations, me lovely pink and cream carnations. Yes, she looked at me carnations, bristling like a porcupine, and then she said, "You can stick your old carnations, your smellless, force-fed Dutch carnations that were dragged up in some greenhouse on the banks of the Rhine. Oh, you big, thick, ignorant gobshite, you great double-barreled gobshite, you All-Ireland champion gobshite. You have no brains, backbone, or spine. Why didn't you pluck me one wild snowdrop, one wild daffodil and a snowdrop, and leave that old bunch of weeds to wither on the banks of the Rhine?" And then she took me grand carnations, me lovely pink and cream carnations, proofs of my infatuation that cost me £2.99. And where she shoved them Dutch carnations, I leave to your imaginations. And our amorous relations ambitions entered terminal decline. On my grave there grows a snowdrop, a wild daffodil and a snowdrop, and my love sheds the odd teardrop if the day comes nice and fine. And this morning be the hokey, on me grave she placed a bouquet of carnations pink and rosy from the banks of the Rhine. Oh, she loves me very dearly, so truly and sincerely. But isn't it a bit late to be shedding tears now after she treated me like a swine? And after such humiliation, if I have to face reincarnation, I'll fall in love with some fair maiden from the banks of the Rhine. That's all.
Leave you with this one, folks. Thanks a million to you for listening. If anybody's online and looking for me or anything, it's S.A. Murphy on Facebook. I try not to be on there as much as I can because I'm addicted to it, as I think most of us are. But yeah, it's a poem. It's a poem that over the last a friend of mine put up a video of it. I just want to say as well, thanks to Dominic for asking me along today, and thanks for Tom as well for the introduction. But yeah, a friend of mine put up a video of this poem a couple of months back, and all of a sudden it got a bit of traction and a couple of million views or something. And it's a strange one because it doesn't really change anything. People go, "Oh, geez, well done on the success," and I'm going, I still don't have a pot to piss in, so you wonder. But yeah, it's called Before You Push the Chair, and it's for anyone who might be struggling. I want you to know that I've been there. In those moments when it feels as though every wall's a prison, when the whole world kneels upon you and the darkness of your vision has encompassed all before you and turned your whole world black, and it feels as though you'll never get to see your old world back. And I've been labelled with depression and branded with disease, and given the impression that for anyone who sees past this great deception that's been sold to us as fact, as a template for expression as to how we should react. But I've come to see despair as a product of control that's embedded in our psyche by the forces who patrol what we read upon our papers or see upon our screens is deliberately tapered to tamper with our dreams, and for all that we resist it, it's there on every surface. From our buses to our bodies, all designed to fit the purpose, to remind us that for all we have, it's still never enough, that there'll always be that void to fill with other mindless stuff. And though some still cling to God to bring some structure to their lives, and others seem to need to be destructive to survive, there's a whole new generation, wandering aimless and confused, who were born into an age that never had a God to lose. And in their quest for validation, they turn to the machine because they've come to know the world through the comfort of a screen. And I've seen the way we've gone from being socially adept, from a people who were strong to being totally inept, where anxiety and loneliness are living side by side, and everyone's just saving face for fear of losing pride as the constant threat of homelessness and risk of repossession has come to manifest itself as clinical depression, so we medicate the masses just to keep them from the rope and eradicate the last remaining evidence of hope just to sell us back the superficial versions of ourselves from the sacrificial altars of our supermarket shelves, and then tell us that a problem halved is just a problem shared, and thus the problem doubled is a problem that's been layered because so many now despair, because to paraphrase Voltaire, they see who rules who suffers, it's still the running scared. But before you push the chair, I I want you to step down from there. Be the light you're born to be. To understand that those who see things differently are those who reshape history. And the prophets and the scriptures were the poets of the times, and everyone you'll ever meet has struggled with the mind, but one true friend will always trump a million friends online. Where reality is distorted and contorted to obscure, and designed to isolate us and to make us insecure, but for all our social networks, our net worth is obsolete when we need the praise of strangers to make us feel complete. But beyond our echo chambers, when we lift our eyes, we'll see that around us lie the embers of our own humanity. And as day is why we name the night, so too we'll come to see that the day we like to blame in life is only ever we, and for all we try to justify the versions of our truth, there will always be perversions to another's absolute. Because no matter where the roots lie, the one thing guaranteed is that the plant will always come to bear the hallmarks of the seed. And look, I don't have all the answers. And I'll never say I do. I've just as many doubts and insecurities as you. But a friend of mine once told me that I showed up in a dream. And I'm not exactly sure what any of it means, but I was walking through a desert with my back towards the sun, in a crowd of other people, but for every other one their shadows fell before them. But for me it fell behind. And he said that he just stood there and watched us for a time. Till at last, I took an hourglass and smashed it with a stone and poured the sand upon the sand as there I stood alone. And when he asked me why I did it, I turned to him and said, and that was simply just the way that the universe was made. And I know that may sound cliche, but I've been thinking about it since. And the more that I've been thinking, the more that I'm convinced that maybe all of us are only pouring dust upon the dust. And it's not us killing time, but more just time that's killing us. But when two people every day here now are taking their own lives, and countless many others are struggling to survive, at what point do we acknowledge that this problem's epidemic and not just a polemic as some college academic, because we're so intent on carrying this intense collective grief that we seem content on marrying our lack of self-belief to a greater sense of victimhood that always comes across as a symptom of the dogma we've adopted from the cross. But I'm tired of trying to find the words. I'm sorry for your loss, and that loss could be avoided for a fraction of the cost. And I'm tired of the statistics, because the numbers can't uphold the stories of the victims that will largely go untold. And I'm tired of the stigma that still surrounds our mental health, as if for simply feeling is a failing of the self. But I'm mostly just exhausted, because I'm all too well aware that right now someone else is just about to push the chair. And I wish that I could tell them, for however dark their plight, that through the shelter of each other we can learn that love is light. Cheers.